Okay guys, 91 slick top, twin turbo conversion with a wide body kit, cherry red pearl, really cool car. It's in here today for troubleshooting, diagnosing, and getting it to run on a Link ECU. So car came into us, customer had somebody else try and tune it, didn't get too far with it. I'm not a huge Link guy, so I can navigate somewhat through it. Had our buddy Bo Brown come in, give us a little help, hands 101 on it, kind of show us the layout of the software, how it all works. I'm a big Haltech guy. I use a lot of Haltech, especially on the Z32s. Link, not so much, only done maybe a couple of them. So it was nice to get Bo in here to get his hands on it. Bo's worked for AEM in the past, and he's pretty well versed with a lot of different ECUs, not necessarily in the car platform that we have, that we specialize in, right, is Z cars and a bunch of Nissan stuff. So both of us basically tackled this thing together, and along the way we ran into a lot of issues. So here we are after hours and hours of investigative research, because again, when you get a car that comes in that you didn't put your hands on and it's the first time you've seen it, there's a lot of layers to this vehicle, any vehicle really, but with these Z32s, who knows how many people have messed around with this thing, and has the maintenance been done? There's just so many aspects to putting a car together and then actually going to tune it to make sure all the pieces come together. You know, because if you're compensating for any issues, whether it be fuel related, you know, you can only fudge it so much in the tuning. That's not really the proper way of doing things. So we've pretty much got this thing well sorted now. We've done a bunch of little maintenance, but also troubleshooting and fixing a lot of other issues. And we've got flex fuel capability on this thing now. So far, we've got it running really well on 91 octane. We're gonna go ahead and get the 91 out, and we'll put some 85 in and do our flex fuel tuning side of it. So nothing too crazy. It does have upgraded turbos, pretty small. They're the Concept Z vanilla upgrades. One of the issues we found with this thing, whoever put the turbos on it, not bashing or anything like that, but one of the surprises we got was one of the actual rod ends wasn't connected to the turbine housing. So that flapper door that's on that turbine housing, that's part of the wastegate, that wasn't in there. So little things like that were impeding us and slowing us down. Once we went all through our checklist and found that, obviously put that back together, and we made sure that the left and the right side actuators were opening at the exact same time. So it's very critical that you have your actuator open at a predetermined boost pressure, but also if it's a twin turbo setup like this is, you got to make sure the left and the right open as close as possible to each other. So we went ahead and did all that, and once we had it on a dyno, Bo and I, we were getting some trigger sync errors. That was with the factory Nissan crank angle sensor, or the CAS, and we went ahead and we installed our Specialty Z cam trigger setup. So fix that issue. Big thing with that is you get more accurate timing sync. So what your mechanical timing is doing to what your ECU is doing. You want those to be in sync as close as possible. You know, reason for it to throw off, of course, is things like the timing belt can throw stuff off. All that stuff moves around and there's slop around. So the other thing that's critical is, of course, the crank angle sensor has a pin drive that goes into the cam, and a lot of times there's slop that goes in on that dowel of the cam, and so you also get the timing out of sync. So this is much better setup. There are, of course, you know, crank and cam trigger kits out there from like BDE. That stuff is fantastic. This is kind of an in-between. It's worked really, really well, and it's really easy to install. You don't have to remove the timing belt. You don't have to take the timing covers off. It's a pretty straightforward install, which makes it really nice. And again, that only works for the standalone stuff. So AEM, Link, Haltech, and each ECU has a specific trigger setting. So we're gonna go through that on the Link. I know a lot of guys have had issues getting ours and other trigger kits to work. You know, you could have engine speed while you're cranking, but you still don't have the timing where it needs to be, or it doesn't want to crank. So all that's very, very critical, and there's a bunch of settings in there. So we'll talk about that on the Link setup. I've had guys in the past have issues with using our trigger on the Link, and we've got some good settings to give you guys to get you up and started, at least for the VG30. So let's come take a look and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So in another one of our videos, we've talked about how this installs. This one's already installed and everything. We've dressed it up with some of the Z-Spec hardware, give it a nice little look, try and match the cherry red pearl with some of the accent washers here. But really simple. You got your magnetic trigger wheel that goes and bolts to the 4 bolt covers on the front of the cam. You've got the sensor bracket essentially, and the sensor that goes in there. And I've got a sensor here. You can see you're basically gonna bottom this bad boy out and go about 1/4 to 1/2 a turn backed out, so counterclockwise like you're loosening it, and then you'll lock it down. The connector for it is the newer style. We do supply a pigtail, that way you can modify it. It's possible Wiring Specialties might make an adapter to convert from the early to late style connector. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward wiring job. You can see here, some of the ECUs, you need to flip the polarity of the signal wires here. So the black and the ground always stay the same. These are the two that you're gonna flip. So basically for the Elites, the AEMs, and the Links, you're gonna have your green wire on the outside. On the Pro plugins, we've had to swap these two. So really easy to do, really easy to depin this bad boy. So with that being said, we've got this thing installed. The next thing is we gotta make sure we have our settings correct in the ECU. So we need to set all that stuff up, and you need to be able to monitor at least engine speed and your trigger signals as well if you're having issues diagnosing stuff. So let's go ahead and we'll do that next, and we'll set up our timing. All right, so I'm using an adjustable Blue Point timing light, and you can set this for 15 degrees. That's what we're aiming for. I like to do this and line up our mark on our crank pulley to the 0 mark on our lower timing cover. So of course, the beautiful thing about this is it gives you a readout of what your engine speed is. So you know that you're getting an accurate read of engine speed. All right, so we're off a little bit, and what I've done is our mark is over to the right of the timing cover, so I know that it's advanced. So to get it to line up, I've had to bring this down to 10 degrees. So currently we're at 10 degrees of total timing. So we know we need to bump it up by 5 degrees. So that setting of -185, we're going to modify that. So literally by 5 degrees. So we're gonna do that next. Here we go. It was -185, I've gone to -180. So I could hear the tone and the pitch change in the engine so that it is a little bit more advanced. So we know we've probably gone the right way. So we're gonna verify that. We're at -180 from -185, and let's go check it. So now what I'm gonna do is our mark is over to the left. So I'm gonna advance it to the 5 degree to make it 15, and boom, we're right on the money. So simple as that. That's how easy it is to get it all set up. So we know we're on 15 degrees, whatever we're running for our ignition timing tables, that is what it's going to run. So there's no guesswork. You don't want to this is too critical to just kind of guess at it. So the cam trigger kit is definitely more of an advanced setup. I get a lot of phone calls from guys that can't seem to get it to set up and work correctly, and every ECU is a little bit different. So hopefully we've made it clear for all you guys running the Link ECUs, at least on the Z32s, how to get it, our cam trigger kit, to get it to match up and work on the Link ECUs, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make a pass on 91, and we will verify everything is good, check our logs, and then we'll move on to E85 on this bad boy. All right, we've wrapped up our E85 tuning as you've seen, finished our 91. It was a bit of a battle, like I said, getting this bad boy where it is from point A to point B. Wasn't gonna let us beat us down. We got it. All the demons have been exorcised out of this thing. So we'll recap, nothing too crazy. It has the Concept Z stock size turbos believe they call them the vanillas. Basically, it's the same size compressor wheel as a stock turbo. It's just a billet wheel. Stock inlet piping, big restriction there. Stock intercooler piping. It does have upgraded intercoolers that are just 2-inch inlet and outlet. Nothing wild there. We are on Nismo 740s, and realistically, that's about it. Just your standard fare of exhaust, 2.5-inch all the way through. So really, really good power for the basic mods. The biggest thing is this thing's finally gonna be problem-free and go rip it up on the street with this bad boy. So on our dyno, 15 pounds of boost almost, guys, 91 octane, 371 wheel, 366 foot-pounds of torque. On E85, we're able to obviously crank the boost up, put a little bit more timing into it, 22 pounds of boost, 462 wheel, 505 foot-pounds of torque. So, you know, perfect example of what a small turbo does on any engine, really. You can see how boost pressure peaks right around the mid-4s, and because it's a small wheel, both on the compressor and the turbine side, you see how the boost pressure just drops off. You know, it holds 14 pounds of boost almost all the way through. You can see it just tapers off a little bit, but you know, your big meat and potatoes, and that's why your torque is higher than your horsepower, is because of the size of the turbos. So this thing will be a blast to drive, 4,500 RPM. We're making 505 foot-pounds of torque. So we're gonna go take it out, get a nice good feel for it, make sure everything's good. But this one is a wrap. Wide body, cherry red pearl.